The Super Smash Bros. Series is a long-running and special series, one that can transcend many different communities at once to cause extreme hype and enthusiasm. Smash Bros. Touches everyone, even collectors. Now, it shouldn't come as a surprise that there are general Smash Bros. Collectors out there, as I'm one of them, but something in particular that a lot of people want to get their hands on after playing Smash Bros. Is merchandise of their mains or favorite characters from the game. This is pretty much why Amiibo existed and why they were so desired for that one point in time when NES crashed the GameStop website. Aside from Amiibos, there's a whole world of merchandise, both old and new, connected to the characters represented in Smash Bros. Ever since I became a K. Rool main, I decided I wanted some of his older toys that were released for the character, and in my hunt to get my hands on this merch, I discovered that there's a lot of lore regarding what I was finding, and I thought it would be fun to take a trip back in time and discover what merchandise was released for the characters in Smash, both past and present. Without further introduction, let's check out all of the different merchandise that exists for King K. Rool. King K. Rool debuted as the main antagonist of the Donkey Kong series back in 1994 when the original Donkey Kong Country released. While the game itself released in both countries, the US didn't get, and usually never got, toys released directly in promotion for a game back during this era. Super Donkey Kong in Japan received a ton of Japan-only merch, including a large set of Keshi. Keshi is a Japanese word meaning rubber or eraser. They're essentially figurines that usually came with candy or trading cards. K. Rool received 2 figures based on his appearance in the Super Donkey Kong series, one featuring a neutral pose, and another dressed in pirate gear holding his blunderbuss. The sculpt on these is really good, as is the case with most Keshi, however they're very small and only painted one color. Usually multiple colors are released per character. Unfortunately, his crown was the accessory to the standard K. Rool, which means most of them are missing this important piece. On top of that, there are certain Keshi colors that seem to be rarer than others, which means more often than not you'll end up with a brown or yellow K. Rool, rather than a green one. If unpainted Keshi aren't your thing, you can look towards the painted figures that exist for the character instead. Sticking with Super Donkey Kong the game, Japan released a stamp set which features many obscure characters like Espresso and Rambi, but it also contains what might be the best looking painted K. Rool figure in existence. I say this because most of the more popular figures we'll look at in a second are based off of the TV show, and the only other painted game-based figure is this guy, and this isn't your typical figure, as its origins are one of the most unique regarding K. Rool merch. As part of a promotion for the game in France, Kellogg's partnered up with Nintendo to release a set of 6 Donkey Kong characters, which could be obtained from specially marked cereal boxes. Naturally, it was 1 figure per box, and the figures were random, so you never knew who you'd get. What's curious about this figure is that despite the box depicting game artwork, which would imply this figure is from the games, the sculpt more closely resembles his appearance from the TV series, notably in the fact that he does not have the bulging eye as seen in the games. If the TV show styled K. Rool is your kind of K. Rool though, there are much better figures you can get. The Donkey Kong Country TV series is insanely infamous for being terrible. However, a plethora of merchandise was still made for it in Japan by a company called Takara. One of the most well-known and popular K. Rool figures is the large vinyl figure that goes to a very diverse set of TV show figures. The sculpt is really good and does capture the character well from the show, but for me, it just doesn't have the charm that the game's design has. Regardless of what I think, the figure was popular enough to be converted into a model kit and released as part of the Plushes toy line, and even had a miniature version released as part of their playset line. But we're just getting started. While figures are one thing, plushes are another. Sometimes I think the competition and desire for plushes exceeds any demand a figure could have, K. Rool or not. Plush collecting is very fierce, and mix in the rarity surrounding a lot of early Donkey Kong merch, we're in for it now. Just as the TV show vinyl figure is the most popular K. Rool figure, this plush going back to the SNES game is the equivalent to that. You've probably seen this plush somewhere before, but what you may not know is that it actually talks. This K. Rool was made in 1995 by Eugene as part of their Super Donkey Kong sound set. The pattern on this guy is perfect, capturing his quirky in-game appearance just as well as the original Keshi did. His fur is a little rough in attempts to recreate his scaly skin, while his stomach is made of shiny gold material to give it that hardened appearance. So what about that talking feature? Well, he has a voice box inside, which plays a small bit of the Donkey Kong theme song from the game. Overall, a very cool plush, and unfortunately, this is the only game-related K. Rool plush that was made. I'm shocked they only made a single plush of the main villain from the game. and this is where the TV show merch, once again, comes into play. There are a couple K. Rool plushes based off of his appearance in the show. The first one is actually very similar to the vinyl figure from earlier, standing in the same kind of pose, with almost the same look on his face. Again though, as this is from the TV show, he's lacking his bulging eye, and just doesn't look as nice. Now, what's odd about these two plushes is that they're very different from one another, yet there exists a mysterious third K. Rool plush that is literally a fusion of the two. This is the only image that currently exists of this strange plush, with its design being based off of the TV show, but the pose taken directly from the Eugen game plush. When translated, the Japanese auction listing it originates from does say it talks, but I have no idea what it plays. As of now, this plush remains a mystery, but maybe with more awareness spread about it, we can come to a conclusion about what it is and why it was made. That concludes all of the known plushes that were made, and leaves us with the odds and ends of K. Rool merch, such as some strange looking keychains I've only ever seen on a Japanese auction site, various trading cards, and other print material that simply feature the character. We've just about covered all of the King K. Rool merch, or at least the stuff that was actually released. Yes, we're not done yet, as there exists a pair of one-of-a-kind prototypes. This pair of cancelled items was never released to the public, and likely don't exist outside of these pieces. Back in the late 90s, a company called BDNA made merchandise in the US directly to promote new Nintendo games, and really were a first of their kind. The company opened a smaller branch called ToySight, who would handle more diverse merchandise lines. Unfortunately, ToySight had its funding cut before it could release much more than that. They had plans for a Banjo-Kazooie figure, a complete Ocarina of Time figure set, and new Donkey Kong 64 products. More specifically, a Wave 2 addition to their plastic head plushes, and a new minifigure set of characters from the game. Planned to release in both of these product lines was a K. Rool plastic head plush and a K. Rool minifigure. As the company was unfolding, some prototypes from these product lines found their way to eBay and were bought up by avid collectors at the time. Nightram from VideoGameMM.com ended up with most of the Donkey Kong prototypes, including both K. Rools. The plastic head plush looks absolutely amazing, and I really wish that had released because I think it's one of the best representations of the character that was made. And the minifigure is cool too, but just not as interesting. Still though, these are two less King K. Rool products that never hit the market. And that does it for merchandise King K. Rool has received over the years. All of it primarily came out during the 90s in Japan in low numbers, which can make obtaining it really difficult. For a character as mainstream to the DK canon as he is, I'm really surprised he didn't get more Japanese plushes or American figures from earlier product lines that ToySight did release. And while yes, the amiibo is coming out, there's still something much more interesting about discovering the memorabilia this fighter has had in the past. Next time, join me as we take a look at another fighter and uncover their history through merchandise.